Hey, friend, welcome back to the Freedom Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host and business mentor, Lindsay Sutherland, and joining me today is Tarin LAROUX from a tiny town in Texas, and I'm so excited. We have so much to talk about. For those of you tuning in, you're wondering what is going to be happening on this episode and why should you stick around? Here it is, because we're talking about Pinterest, and I'm telling you, this is like the little secret of the online industry that most people don't know about, but could be the secret that blows up your business. So you want to hear this message. Tarin, thank you so much for joining me. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe to this show on whatever podcast player you prefer and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Hey friend, it's Lindsay. Pause with me for just a second. You're listening to this podcast right now, and maybe you've listened to dozens or hundreds of episodes. Maybe you've just even done all the things. You've bought the courses, bookmarked articles, joined the Facebook groups, all because you know you need reoccurring income. It's something that's been weighing on you for a while. You might have heard me talk about it, the someday dream. Well, we're going to make this the today action. It's time to get moving. And here's the thing, you've got all the information at your fingertips. And the fact of the matter is, you don't need any more information. You're drowning in information. What you really are starving for is clarity. Everybody in the world is teaching you what to build. And YouTube is full of how-tos, but nobody is helping you figure out which one fits your business, your lifestyle, your actual audience. Which model makes sense for you? How do you know if people are going to pay for it? Where do you even start? Those are not questions that another podcast episode can answer. You, my friend, need clarity, and that's what I created for you. It's a free guide. It's called Earn 5K per month on repeat. 5 simple steps that help you figure out what you should build to get that reoccurring income flowing. And it's not just what everybody else is building. It's what makes sense for your business. Because here's the truth. You don't need more information. You need to see your specific path forward. That is clarity, and that's what this guide does. So text the word freedom to 55444 and I will send it straight to you. Again, that's freedom to 55444. It's time to stop listening to all the things and start building. Okay, but definitely keep listening to this one episode, shall we? The point is, the next step is waiting for you in the guide. So take action, get that guide sent to you, and let's build something together. All right, back to the episode.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm, again, super glad to be here talking to my sort of people
Yeah.
and talking about my favorite subject, which is Pinterest, of course.
Yeah, I know. We were both realizing we've been friends on Facebook and we both come from small towns. We're both, I would say, country girls. Like you say something about chickens in your bio. I have chickens and ducks and geese and too many birds, to be honest. I'm over birds right at the moment because they kind of took over my yard and I just got them all cornered into a bird pen for the winter, mainly just to keep feeding easy because it snows. We get a lot of snow here in Idaho. And I'm like, I gotta like get less birds. This is just too many. I'm afraid they're gonna be having babies by the time I get around to it though.
Probably the spring will be here and there'll definitely be some more, and you'll realize that the chicken math said you needed just a few more.
Yes, it's turned into too many. Quite that. Do you have anything else besides chickens? Do you have any other animals?
Not currently. We actually had to sell our chicken flock because we're moving. Everything is shifting over here, so it's not
Okay.
just me shifting the brand; it's shifting everything in my whole world, and that's
That happens. And you know what? It's always for the good. It feels like a hot mess, but it works out.
mhm.
It really does. Yeah, that's cool. No, is there anything you want to homestead with specifically? I've raised sheep. That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Yep. I want some sheep next. I think that was what caught me to caught my eye yesterday because I'm like, I've been trying to convince my husband that we need sheep next. He wants a cow, and I'm like, but I hear that the sheep have better, more nutritionally dense milk, and they're not easier, but you can have more of those than cows.
They eat less.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
cows are really big.
and they cost a lot, like food wise. Sheep are definitely easier to manage food wise. And they're easier to train to get up on the milking thing. I don't know, cows are pretty good. But milk cows can't be used for meat as well as a sheep could be used for all the things. So I
Yep.
think it would
That's
be,
that's a big perk there. I see it
yeah.
being very sustainable for our family.
Yeah. Plus they're so cute. The lambs
Yeah.
are so cute. Okay, well, enough about that.
Yep.
So we're going to dig into Pinterest. I personally used Pinterest a lot when I started the podcast. I've kind of got away from it. And then recently I started wondering, like, is it still relevant? Like, I don't hear about it as much. That's kind of why I think I reached out to you because I'm like, what's new? What's going on over there? I hear from some of my friends who I've talked about Pinterest to. They're like, I don't go on there because there's so many ads. And that is becoming a thing. Seems like Shopify and WordPress and all these places are setting it up with the Merchant Center to like push everything out there on Pinterest. So, how do we make it all work? And I would love for you to share a little bit, but kick it off. Like, how did you get into Pinterest to begin with?
Okay. Well, we want to start there. Then I fell down a Pinterest rabbit hole myself, looking for ways to have this like kind of sort of homestead opportunity. I knew that I wanted to live on at least 10 acres in the future because that allows our family to be able to hunt in Texas. And that was hugely appealing, but being able to go to work from 10 acres or at the time I was working from home taking like phone calls for Xbox, and I worked for Apple at one point as well from home, which was pretty nifty, but it was not something I wanted to spend 40 hours a week doing with two newborns. I
Yeah.
wanted to have this homeschool life. I knew that was something that was definitely on its way. And although I was working from home, I started looking for other opportunities where I could have this sort of like laptop lifestyle, but on 10 acres essentially. Um, I found first there was a program on Pinterest called Proofread Anywhere. And she told her story about how she helps people learn how to annotate court transcripts, right? And I'm like a
Mm.
huge grammar nerd. So I'm like, this is perfect. That's where it all started. I found $1,000 to invest in her course. I was hugely inspired by her story because she talked about how her business made over $1 million and nobody had ever heard of her. Like, you've probably never heard of her still, but her business is still around and it's still bringing people in through this evergreen funnel that she's built. Um, and it started there. So I got into utilizing Pinterest myself to kind of like attract clients. And then I found out through a long process of building my own website, building a website for somebody else, that that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I used Pinterest to help grow the website side of things, brought in people into my world, and then discovered that a Pinterest manager, a Pinterest VA, was very much like a social media manager, but specifically for Pinterest. And as somebody who wasn't even on social media at the time, that sounded crazy appealing and kind of like an introvert's paradise. And to be honest, when I got into the side of like Pinterest managing, comparing it to the previous website design business that I had set up, it was a lot more flexible, even more so because there wasn't a whole lot of touch points. There's still checking in, but there wasn't a lot of like hand holding and approval, where as a website, there's a lot of back and forth needed to make it come to make your dreams come true. It's
Yes.
very much hard work.
Yeah.
But on Pinterest, it was very much like I batched these designs and I scheduled them out, and slowly but surely, traffic starts to trickle in, and we repeat the process. Is really how it got started. And I said I could do that, and so I had started doing it for myself, and then I realized that there was a need for it, and so
Mhm.
Pinterest became like my niche back in 2017, I guess, long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I think that was a good time to be in the Pinterest world for sure. At the time, there wasn't AI, the algorithm was so much more search engine optimization focused. It was easy to target keywords, and the game is changing, which I know we're going to dig into, but it's definitely been an interesting ride. And frankly, it was probably a lot simpler, a lot less saturated back then too.
It's true, but today it's still very much runs on the same principles. It's all reliant on search engine optimization or Pinterest optimization. It starts with those sorts of keywords, and then it does go like a step further because Pinterest isn't simply a search engine. They like to call themselves like a visual discovery engine. So you go there, you're like, I promise you, people, it's not all recipes and wedding planning. People, I went there myself to be like, how do I set up systems for my website design business? And I found solutions there, walkthroughs, downloadable things, courses that I didn't have money for that I invested in. Um, and so they're like taking it a step further with your original query, trying to help you discover what you're actually looking for before you even type it in.
Okay. And I just remembered I found my coach to help me launch my podcast on Pinterest. I at the time, this was 2020. It was around 2020, 2021, somewhere in there. I was talking to God. I was outside. I was gardening or doing something. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I want to do something online. I did not listen to podcasts. My sister used to send them to me all the time. And I'm like, who's got time for these? Like, pfft, I am not down with this. I'm too busy because I'm outside a lot, right? And anyway, I was out there and I'm talking to God and hear it clear as a bell. You should start a podcast. And I'm like, really? Are you sure? And I went inside and I don't remember if I was like I went to Pinterest or if I searched it and then I was taken to Pinterest. Whatever it was, I ended up on Pinterest and it was like how to start a podcast ideas was like all the filter of what you're saying. I clicked on one and I ended up down this rabbit hole and I'm listening to and then I literally went from Pinterest to customer on her site. I mean, it was almost within, I would say within 7 days.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and that's like the kind of magic thing that happens there is because you're going there with a little bit higher intent. You already know that you do want a solution. You might not have known that you were about to invest in something, but you're like, yeah, what is the step one? And then this person is like, I have the answers for you. You can have the answers, but we can also take it a step further. And so like they had that sequence of events to kind of lead you into it. And that's what I love about Pinterest. It creates like not just like the ease of that transition and carrying people from one point to the next in your world. Excuse me. But it also like kind of creates a lifelong fan because you know that they know their stuff. And so you want to keep
Mhm.
coming back for more. And they're going to be that person that you go to for all things.
Well, for people who don't know, how a lot of people will think like, how is Pinterest not like a social media, right? Because you can still like things, you can follow people similar to social media. How does it differ?
Oh yeah, Pinterest gets lumped in with all those social media platforms out there, and it's definitely not based on the social side of things. Like you can like stuff, you can comment on stuff, you can be in like group boards, which are kind of like little communities where you share pins, and you can send messages to people, but people don't go there to comment on stuff. They don't go there to send messages back and forth. They go there because they're looking for inspiration most of the time. And most of the time they're going there with an intent to search for something, whether that is what's for dinner or how to scale my business, how to like specific journal prompts are really great there. And so if you can tap into like what they're actually searching for, then you can start showing up not only when they're searching for it, but in between there where they're searching for like the pre before they even know that that's what they need from you.
Like a little psychological operation going on over there, like it
Hmm
seems like.
hmm
So how do you figure that out? Like if you're working with a client, Maybe you have a case study as an example where, they sell this one thing, but we targeted this in Pinterest and this is how, like that kind of thing. Do you have a story maybe for something like that?
Yeah, I have, it's part of my framework that we dive into. The very first thing, actually, I call it the intuitive inquiry insight. So it's, based on not only your experience of seeing your client journey and being able to kind of like predict what they would need next in from point A to point B, um, but it also taps into that inquiry side of things because there's lots of different ways that you can think that people are searching for things, but I promise you people are not going into Pinterest and not typically Google either, looking for like a life coach in particular. They're looking for a life coach who solves this kind of problem. And so what I do is always take it to Pinterest first and I see what pops up for like really, really big, broad keywords. Just like we can start with life coach, but we probably want to start with something more like mindset or even like, I don't know, like shadow work is still kind of broad. So as we get one keyword, we can dig into other keywords that that specific pin is already ranking for to see if they're relevant for our niche or if they were, placed in there by a bot that got confused. But we analyze the actual data that pops up and then we put it inside of like a Google Doc or a spreadsheet somewhere where you can keep your keywords safe. And then normally we can actually tell like the data to see if people to see how many people are searching for it on a monthly basis and to see like the kind of competition that's already showing up on the platform for that keyword.
Interesting. So you can do all that in your analysis, like that's something that they can do. Is that
Yes.
something that Pinterest offers, or do you have to use like an extra tool for that?
It's a combination of both. So Pinterest has like their little back end inside of their campaign builder for promoted pins that gives a little bit of data, and that can fluctuate based on the season.
Okay.
Um, and then they also have this really nifty tool. It's a third party called Pin Clicks. And Pin Clicks is super nifty for like tracking keywords as well as like actually taking a look at your own account to see what kind of keywords are your account is ranking for.
This is awesome because, like, for podcasters, which I know a lot of coaches do podcasting for this reason, you can reverse engineer it. So, if you had your keywords, you could basically tailor your episodes around that and then use
Mhm.
Pinterest to drive traffic to your podcast.
Yes. And I want to talk about this because this is like my favorite way to use Pinterest, especially with coaches, because podcasting is like a no-brainer to me because I now listen to podcasts as a busy mompreneur. I put my headphones in to wash the dishes, to take care of farm work, etc. And and I get to multitask that way. Um, and so my clients, what we do is we take that transcript from your podcast, right? And we actually flip it into like a blog post.
Hmm.
And the reason we do that is because most people on Pinterest expect to find a blog post. That's just the commonplace practice, has been for years. That's why it's been like a content creator's heaven,
Hmm.
because blogs just thrive there. But when you actually flip your transcript into a full-blown blog post, you can actually get people in to your world who may not be podcast listeners. You can also bring them in and let them be aware that you have a podcast. So they have the option to either read it or watch a video or just listen to it. Then they can like save it for later if they don't want to listen to it right now, but they know that they have that option and
Mm.
they can come back to it. Um, and then you're getting people no matter what their learning style is, and you're able to appease to like a wide range of accessibility that way.
It just gave me so many ideas thinking about because so I switched. I used to work. My podcast was on Podbean, and I ended up switching over to Captivate. And the reason I did that was there was a couple of reasons. One was for, I don't know, they claimed that they help you market your podcast, which honestly, I don't really feel like they do that as well as they claimed. But that was one big motivation. Another reason was because you can have up to three podcasts on your one account, which I
Mm-hmm.
liked. And the third reason was you got a website built in with your stuff, which I thought was really snazzy because I was doing that before. I was taking my transcription, turning it into a blog, posting it on my website, making the graphic, doing all the things. Then I did a time analysis and it was taking me like 6 or 7 hours for my whole thing for one episode. It was like all the things, making all the graphics, sharing all the things. It was like, wow, that's a lot when I'm trying to build other things. Like I wanted to build out my courses and do my other stuff. So I looked at this site. So Captivate, now the Freedom Entrepreneur, it'll be like the dash freedom dash entrepreneur dot podcast dot captivate dot fm or something like that. It's like it's kind of long, it's silly long, but it is what it is. And then what I do is when I post in my episode as my description, that's my blog. And on the website, it acts as a blog. So when I do Pinterest, I drive it to my website. Now, what you just got me thinking is, wouldn't it be cool if we could have like a button that says like, send this to your email for later? Like for that person who wants to listen but not right that second, where it could like, now they can save the pin to a board, but if they're already on my site, it would be cool if they could like push a button that's like, email this link to yourself so you can find it later or was something like that. I'm curious if now you got me thinking like I wonder if that would help because from a podcaster's perspective, we all want the downloads and you
Mhm.
don't get the downloads if they just read your blog. We
Right,
want them
right.
to listen.
Yep. And I work with a lot of YouTubers too. So, or they're usually podcasters who have a YouTube.
Okay.
And so they want the YouTube views as well. So I like that idea. I actually hadn't even thought about that before. So I will thank you for that because it would definitely be worth testing as like a call to action in possibly the middle of your post there. But
Mhm.
I suggest definitely finding a way to get people to take that next step, whether that is like through a reminder email or it is through an opt-in, some sort of content upgrade that is, using that intuitive insider insight to actually get them to take the next step with you,
Mhm.
based on what they just read or listened to, or to lead them into like a paid version as well, because depending on what that topic is, they might be ready to take that actual next step. But chances are that from Pinterest, they're going to need a little bit more exposure before they hand over their credit card. I'm not saying it
Mhm.
doesn't happen,
Mhm.
but usually they've never heard of your brand before. And this is the very first experience that they have landing on your website. But the cool thing about Pinterest is that it does like allow you to kind of like retarget people organically, because once they interact with one of your pins, Pinterest is going to show them a little bit more of your stuff if you have more stuff out there that's relevant
Mhm.
to show them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. No. So then when you're doing that, I love the reverse engineering for keywords. Do you find that to be like the linchpin to success on Pinterest? Or do you find like people who already have blogs and say they hire you to come in and they never had Pinterest before? Is that still effective or is it really, really centered around those keywords?
So a lot of the content that you already have probably just needs to be spun in a different way. If if you're creating content that speaks to your ideal audience, then there is going to be a way to target them on Pinterest for when they're actually in that kind of mindset that they're looking for the solution. So, um, I think I'm answering your question.
Yeah, you are because so what the reason I was asking that is because I think that a lot of times people say they're thinking of trying this out for themselves and they aren't ready to invest in like what was that software you said pin something pin master that gave you the keyword analytics
Pin clicks.
pin clicks. So they might think, well, I already have the content and I just want to drive the traffic. How effective is it? Like, I guess what I'm trying to think is like, is it worth their time? Because Pinterest can be kind of time consuming. Creating the pins is not fast, although it might get faster with AI. I don't know. But right now, it's still a little time consuming. And a little bit, another question too would be like, is there something specific they should know about the actual pin? Like, do image only works versus text only? That's something I think that makes it really different than social media. In my experience, when you go to social media, it's all about video and visuals. Like, interesting photos or interesting videos, but you don't see too much of that on Pinterest. You do see some video, but it's really a lot of like words,
Yeah.
you know?
It is. And that's why video does work really well on Pinterest too, because it breaks that kind of monotony of just like, I think of them like book covers actually,
Mm,
because it gives you a little like tidbit as to what you'll find if you click through and open it up. And then once I get there, they have like the full taste because they landed hopefully on your whole website. It's always my recommendation that you send people there. Like you can send people wherever you want to on Pinterest. Pinterest thrives on your links. Doesn't really it has certain rules. It doesn't want you to redirect stuff, but as long as like you have solid links, you can bring people back to anywhere. Even if it's an affiliate link, you can technically do that too.
hmm.
But when you bring it back to your website, you set up that kind of authority instantaneously, and you also get to be in charge to kind of give them the direction, give them that little nudge to take the next step because they're already thinking about it.
Well, and also it helps to get them the vibe of your brand. I feel like that was
Yeah.
the thing that solidified it for me with that coach because,
Right?
once I got onto her website and then I started listening to some of her other, and that's why it took me a week. I listened to a bunch of her podcasts before I finally took the
E-
plunge, you know?
Exactly. She
Yeah.
made it easy for you to binge everything that she
Hmm.
had, and that's why putting all that evergreen stuff over on Pinterest just makes sense because number one, Pinterest is an evergreen platform. It's not like traditional social media where even reels kind of don't last forever. On Pinterest, like it takes a little while for your content to take off. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say that you could go put all 20 of your blogs on there and give it 30 days and you're going to have thousands of people entering your world. It takes Pinterest time to index each individual pin. And by time, I mean like 3 to 6 months for it to fully index it. And then it will show it to people when they search for that for literally years.
Hmm. Say that again. That's powerful.
Yeah, for my clients see like cyclical returns from stuff we did 5 years ago, and they blow up every summer from this one pin. And the crazy thing, or I should say, one link, because it's not just one pin. It is that you don't have to stop with just one pin for one link. You can create an unlimited amount of new pins for the same link, and that makes Pinterest pretty happy.
See, and I thought that would actually make it look like your spam. Like
If
you,
that's the only link you're putting out there, yeah, sure. But if you
okay.
have you if you're creating new designs for your existing blogs and you're for like your top performing ones, right?
Hmm.
You're definitely allowed to reshare them. Um, the the very best is when you have a brand new link and a brand new image. Pinterest is like, yeah, you get a gold star. And then once you start creating new images for that same link, it's like, hey, we appreciate the fresh images, but it's not as good. You can have a silver star. So, um, just some things to consider that fresh links optimize everything that you've got going there, and it gets Pinterest hyped, I guess.
Okay, so basically what I'm hearing you say is like you wouldn't want like so say my website's just lindsaysutherland.com. I wouldn't want to just drive all my pins to that one website. I would want to do it to like lindsaysutherland.com / and then a deep link of like this episode, for example, on my website because it's
Yes.
a long tail keyword and it's driving them directly to that solution rather than just,
Mhm.
oh, I know that is so frustrating when you see something really cute and you're like, oh, I want to make that craft. And so you go to the website and you're like, I can't find that craft.
Yep.
Where is it? I don't know. And I'm not going to keep searching. So you leave.
Hmm. And that's another like not another, but that is just like one of the small downsides of being eternally evergreen is that if things shift, well, those links still live on there.
Hmm. Hmm.
So with that in mind, don't put out any time sensitive offers because it's going to take time for Pinterest to understand what it's about. And the only exception for that would be if you're planning on running promoted pins because it's going to get it out there instantly and bring in the traffic simultaneously without without having to figure out what that content's about. It's going to show it based on keywords, which is what we want it to do.
Yeah. So So you're saying it essentially takes around 3 to 6 months to start seeing traction on Pinterest. So if people are going to dig into the Pinterest game, they're going to have a little heavy lifting in the beginning. But what's the reward? Like, give us some examples of what some of your clients are seeing.
So typically right around that 90-day mark, we can kind of gauge how things are going if we're being nice and consistent. Um, and around that 90-day mark, we really start to see things start to compound. Usually in like at least 2,000 website visits a month is the very first milestone. And then we start getting 5,000 visitors every month, upwards to 10,000, which is really the next milestone because that allows my clients to also apply for some of those bigger ads, which we want the bigger ads, not the smaller ads, because the bigger ads are not as intrusive. They
You're talking
Nobody
about
wants
ads for
intrusive
their
ads.
blog, right? Like AdSense ads?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was just not sure because we were talking about Pinterest promoted pins. And so I was like wanting to clarify which side. So basically, from a blogger's perspective, so here you're not just teaching us about Pinterest, you're giving us some blogger tips too. Like once you get to 10,000 views a month, then you can start working it up on AdSense and get paid more from more reliable, less spammy ads that are going to be better for you. Gotcha. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
monetizing that traffic.
yeah, yeah. So really, by driving the traffic from Pinterest to the blog, you're not just making it profitable for them for whatever reason they're selling, whatever they have on their blog that they're selling. It's also for the ads.
Yep, that is one of the bigger perks that we have in our goals is to
Mhm.
get to be able to apply for those because not all of my clients want to run the ads, and they just want to focus on bringing in like one-on-one clients, which is
Mhm.
totally doable on Pinterest as well. When you when you have all those things in place that say, "Hey, yes, I'm a real human. I really know my stuff, and I'll let you taste test it first."
Yeah. Yeah. So what's really working on Pinterest? Like, are you noticing any trends that maybe were different from when you first started?
Hmm. I might actually say the promoted pins is something that's really shifted since I started back in 2017 because it is a little bit of a gap that I started to fill with my clients because it takes some time for things to compound, right? And so, like, those first 3 months almost look like nothing is happening. We're so used to those, like, notifications on social media telling us that something is working, it's getting seen, we're doing it right. But on Pinterest, your notifications are like, hey, look, we found this pin for you. We totally love it for you. And I'm like, okay, calm down. Um, but once people start saving your pins, it really does start compounding on itself. And like one single pin will get like 100 different people to save it,
Hmm.
and you've got 100 different pins out there doing the same sort of thing, just continuously serving up that engagement from really targeted traffic. But not everybody wants to wait that long. And so having the promoted pins alongside the organic strategy has really helped my clients to start building up this email list at the very beginning. And then we actually retarget people who have signed up for the email list, who have visited their website, and then we get them into the low cost or their mid ticket or their like brand new launch. We plan for those as well to make sure that they're being seen in a timely manner.
Okay, very cool. That's smart. And I like that you thought through that because like it's true. A lot of times clients that are just looking at Pinterest as a strategy and any strategy really, marketing, it's like what am I trying to say? Social media marketing, ads marketing, whatever the case is, everybody wants to be like seeing the profits. Obviously, I mean, not saying they shouldn't, but it is probably the hardest on Pinterest and it is a long game. I I was curious because when I first started my podcast, I started another one too. It was called My Dream Log Cabin, and I was working for a local log cabin builder, but they're here in little tiny Idaho, Bonners Ferry, and they could deliver their cabins anywhere in the world. And I'm like, you guys need a podcast. Like, it's an easy way to reach mass people, right? So I had my whole strategy, which I was doing for both, which was the podcast episode, blog, Pinterest, right? The whole circle of life, as you could say. And I also managed their website. And I did that for, I would say, a solid more than a year. But after a year, I would say between 6 months to a year, we started to where Pinterest was the number one traffic driver to our site. Hands down, we got the most traffic. Now, I will say it also had the lowest time on site. So it was good at driving them there, but not keeping them there necessarily. But of all the social media adventures that we had tried to that point, Pinterest was the only one that ever turned into a customer. For a log cabin home, I mean, we're talking it's $1 million investment. That's a big deal.
Mhm.
So it was real. That's when my brain went like lights on with Pinterest because I saw how pins that I had posted in the very beginning were still driving traffic. And just for funsies, after I left, I managed their site. I went in there like a year later and still it was still
Mhm.
performing, even though I hadn't been producing episodes.
Yep.
So it's so powerful.
Yes, to everything you said. I hear this story all the time actually because it's something that you put some investment into, you put that behind it with this ecosystem that is truly evergreen that's going to support you for years to come because you have this thing that's not going anywhere and Pinterest is going to keep serving you the traffic. Um, yeah,
Do you
that's the
think,
organic side.
yeah, for sure. Have you tried anything with Canva AI graphics? Does it do a good job of like making pins for you?
You know what? I don't think I've tried it with Canva's like full blown thing, but Tailwind is
Mhm.
this scheduler that I always recommend for Pinterest. It was built specifically for Pinterest. They have some AI features, including like this ghostwriter. Love their ghostwriter for descriptions. And then they have a ghost campaign thing for creating the pins as well. I'm not a big fan of them, but maybe I'm just like really picky. Making the pin designs is like my favorite part of the whole thing. And so you have to make designs that do catch people's eye. And
Mhm.
so if it's bland, it's just gonna get lost in that sea.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
kind of what AI is doing, at least for the moment.
Well, and you've been doing it for so long that you probably have an eye for like what pops automatically without even having to think about it. Like it just comes naturally to you because it's a muscle you've built up, you know? I was just curious if you'd experimented with it. I've just recently started playing around with like Nano Banana and just different little softwares for fun to see how they go. But I've never done anything with text. I've been nervous about it because, it usually messes it up or it misspells a word and then you can't fix it. And it's like, oh. So it's too much. It'd be faster to make the pin yourself at that point. I just wondered
Yeah.
if you tried it out or had any thoughts on that. Do you
Yeah.
think though that like do you have any success with just image pins or image only pins?
So those work good for like products if you have like lifestyle images for your products. But when we have just like plain images, they're more for like aesthetic. And so people are typically saving those for like inspiration and they'll just like get
Mm.
saved. They don't always click through. And
Oh,
so we
yes.
designed pins that actually encourage outbound clicks. So when they get to your website, they get to make all those fun choices about whether or not they they like you and whether or not they want to buy from you.
Okay, that's like a really good topic because you just thought made me think. I've got a client who's a Christmas decorator. She's launching a course, an academy. Well, she already launched it. Plus, she has a really good lead magnet. And I thought for her, Pinterest would be amazing because Christmas is so visual and pretty, and everybody's on looking at Christmas stuff. But you just brought up a really good point. Like she might get a lot of saves, but maybe not a lot of click-throughs. So I'd be curious. Like now I'm curious. I want to have her talk to you because I'm like, how would you go about doing something like that for her to be so different than her intent would have to be different than what other people might be looking at. Why would somebody want to build a Pinterest just for getting Pinterest saves? Like, what's the benefit?
I, I don't know. This is no, I feel like I've had this conversation before and I don't know how to explain it for personal reasons. Like people like to use Pinterest personally, and so like having a board that's filled with gorgeous images is kind of inevitable, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're trying to monetize it. I know it's crazy because we're like mompreneurs and we're like, you can monetize that, you can monetize that. And so we're like, why would anybody have this profile that has a million views on it, but it doesn't go anywhere? I've been asked this before and I'm like, I don't know, I'm not them.
Right. Oh my gosh. Okay, so is there any other other hacks people should know about? Like pinning to groups. You mentioned groups. Is that a strong thing to do, or should you just kind of just get going and starting is better than nothing? Or how do you like if somebody was sitting right here with us on this call and they wanted you to give them like two big must do's, what would you give them?
So the first thing that we really need to do is that keyword research because without fully comprehending what your dream client is typing in, that would lead them to either your podcast episode or to directly to your freebies landing page. You're going to be thrown into the darkness. You're going to be targeting the really broad keywords that don't signal intent. And so that keyword research on Pinterest specifically is critical. The next thing is to make sure that those keywords are reflected on your profile's boards. And that's
Okay.
kind of where you house all of your pens
Mm-hmm.
and and the patience is the last thing because like I mentioned before, it does take a little bit of time for Pinterest to sort out that keyword that you're feeding it, and you'll feed it kind of everywhere once you get it started. And I do have a nice guide, a nice little setup guide that goes into all of how to do your keyword research, where your keywords go, and it also includes a section on like getting your website presence Pinterest ready,
Oh,
since
wow.
it's the traffic part, in my opinion, is so simple. That's Pinterest's job is to drive the traffic, but it then becomes your website's job to move people into that next step. So
That's powerful. Where can people get that?
can I send you the link, Lindsay? Because I not only am rebranding, but I broke my whole website.
Oh no, that's a bummer. Yeah,
So
please do.
so everything is just like in the cloud.
And for the audience listening, what I'll do is after she gives me the updated link, I'll make sure to update the show notes so it'll be there. But yeah, for sure. That's pretty amazing. I love that. Thank you for sharing those tips because I think that's really important. I would say for anybody who's digging into this, think of this as a long-term strategy. One of the things that I've often taught is we should have one long form strategy and one short form to start. And if that's podcasting and you just want to learn podcasting, Pinterest is a really key important part of that, but you don't have to necessarily like get, 50 episodes going. Do your podcast for a while, then layer in the Pinterest as you start to you got to like work out the muscles and get the habits going.
Mhm.
It is a lot in the beginning. I did do that myself for both podcasts for that first year. It was extremely intense and it's a lot of work, but it totally pays off. The other piece of that I would say is just plan on doing it for a year. When you're ready to dive in, commit to a year, have a strategy. Maybe on your guide, does it have a strategy like how many pins per week they should post and whatever? Okay.
Has guidelines because it's not set in stone.
Okay. All right. So we have a guideline, commit to a strategy and execute for a year and then see where you're at and reevaluate. Or, of course, connect with Tarin because she will help you. Where do you want me to also include like an email address for you in the show notes so
Um,
people can connect with you?
we excuse me again. We can direct people to goodness. That's a good question.
What about your Facebook? Do you have a Facebook page?
I was going to suggest to head over to profitablepinplan.com. It's a mini podcast that really dives into how to utilize Pinterest.
Okay.
And it's yeah, miniature, only 3 parts.
I love it. No, I think that's great for people who want to get started. And you know what? I say get started. And if you find it's too much, then it's really worth the investment for, if you're serious about building your business, Pinterest is a massive traffic driver and they're not
Mhm.
going away. I mean, you can go on their website and see their demographics. It's like when I worked in the car business, we used to be part of the Costco auto program. Do you guys have a Costco there by you?
Mhm.
You know, when you go shopping, how they have like a car parked outside sometimes? That's through the Costco Auto program, and like only specific dealers get to be a part of that. Like and you have to offer the best deal at Costco. If you're selling a car through Costco, it has to be you can't offer that same deal anywhere else. Like they're very, very, very specific. But the reason they can be so specific is because they know the people who shop at Costco, the average credit score. They know the buyer demographic. They know, and you just want to be in front of that audience, right? It's like that on Pinterest. Like high intent buyers, what does that mean? People who click are more likely to buy versus a social media click versus even a podcast. You know, people will binge on podcasts and never buy from you because you're giving away so much good content on your podcast. Like
Mhm.
there's just a mindset shift from people who are on Pinterest seeking a specific solution. Like you said, I really, really like that you said that because I feel like I'm a broken record and I'm like, sell the transformation. It's about the transformation. You got to solve a problem. But I mean, that's you parroted that perfectly and it is so true. So I love that. And I love the way we've just helped people who are stuck on content. Like they can go to that penclick.com and figure out what they need to be doing more of. That's
Yeah, and
fantastic.
and even Pinterest, like because once you click on one pin, it like shows you a whole bunch of other related stuff, and you're like, oh, and this angle and that angle, and you go a little bit deeper.
Well, and that's think about it. Like that's how people search, right? Like you want a wedding dress. Okay, no, you don't just want a wedding dress. You want a sleeveless wedding dress. No, you don't just want a sleeve. You want a sleeveless one with a blue sash. Like, it's just like you get deeper and deeper the more you figure out what you like. And that's how we all search for stuff. So you're really smart about it. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so grateful for your conversation today. Um, and everybody go check out Tarin's website and connect with her on, tell me your website one more time, that little mini podcast.
profitablepinplan.com.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.